There are truths nobody dares to speak aloud, hidden beneath layers of romance, wrapped in sweet metaphors, and dressed up as noble ideals. These truths aren't meant to be looked at directly because if they were, everything you've believed about love and connection would forever start to crumble. Yet, it's exactly within those uncomfortable truths that real freedom waits. These truths don't gently soothe. They strike hard, tearing at your soul and opening your eyes. One truth in particular many men aren't ready to hear. A woman does not love the way you love. She never has. Not out of cruelty or deceit, but because her emotional makeup works on a system completely different from yours. While you dream of eternity, building castles in the air, she is quietly assessing, selecting, and adapting. You love from a deep place of yearning for fusion, to merge souls and lives. She acts from something older, more biological, more pragmatic. But you never knew this. No one told you. Since childhood, you were taught a story, that one day the right woman would appear, that love heals all wounds, that sacrifice is rewarded, that if you give your all, you'll receive the same in return. Persistence was romantic. Crying for love was noble. Surrendering completely was the right thing to do. But what they never told you, the most important part, is that the kind of love you expect, the unconditional, forever kind, is not the love that often governs how many women choose and love. Arthur Schopenhauer saw this with brutal clarity. Without the flowery words of poets or the softness of novelists, he said what many won't. What the world calls romantic love is, for the most part, a mirage, a social illusion that dulls a man's essence, domesticates him with promises of soulmates, when in truth it may be nothing more than a biological mechanism wearing the mask of emotional destiny. He didn't say this to hurt you, but to awaken you. The female instinct, though never cruel or disdainful, is programmed to seek protection, stability, and continuity. It often operates without a woman even realizing it, guided by the cold laws of natural selection. If you don't understand this, if you keep believing both genders love the same way, you will destroy yourself, not because of her, but because you expect from her something she was never designed to give. That's why you gave everything. Your focus, your energy, your time, your vulnerability, believing that what you offered would be returned in kind, and when it wasn't, when she grew distant, cold, or simply disappeared without explanation, the pain was unbearable. Not just because you lost someone, but because the fantasy holding you together collapsed. It's here, in the emptiness of that void, that your journey begins. If you're reading this and you felt that silent betrayal, tasted the bitterness of giving your all and receiving only silence, maybe you're finally ready. Ready to stop idealizing. Ready to see not through resentment, but clarity. When the illusion shatters, what remains isn't just pain, it's confusion. Because you don't understand what went wrong. You thought you did everything right. You were loyal, devoted, and present. You gave without reservation. Yet she left, changed, or replaced you without explanation. In that gap, between your belief and reality, the real fracture begins. It wasn't her departure that broke you. It was realizing she never lived in the story you were writing. Schopenhauer explained it plainly. The love a man idealizes is a mirage that distracts him from his purpose. It keeps him trapped in a story that was never his to begin with. From his perspective, what you call eternal love may well be a biological strategy, a mechanism to select, evaluate, and discard when no longer useful. You thought you were building something together, but she was responding, often unconsciously, to survival instincts. While you dreamed of a soul-deep union, she assessed your ability to offer emotional, economic, and genetic stability. Not out of malice, not out of superficiality, but because biology programmed her to. And though it hurts, that doesn't make her less valuable, just fundamentally different. The problem isn't her. The problem is your ignorance of this structural difference. You expect love to be a sacred, unchanging promise. She may see it as a temporary opportunity. You believe your full-hearted devotion guarantees permanence. Her instincts tell her to keep evaluating if you remain the best choice, not with a romantic heart, but with cold, primal survival logic. When you're no longer that choice, when her unconscious radar senses someone offering more status, security, strength, or resources, her desire fades. No drama, no warning, no explanation. It simply vanishes. What you felt was sacred to you becomes, to her, a completed cycle. You, still believing love is eternal, are left in ruins asking, "Where did I go wrong?" You didn't go wrong. You just entered the wrong game, playing by rules you didn't know existed. You stepped onto an emotional battlefield, thinking you were in a spiritual partnership, but in reality, you were part of natural selection. That doesn't make you weak or foolish. It makes you human, deeply human, idealistic to the point of blindness. And this is where many men break, beyond repair. They become bitter, resentful, and hardened. They think the only option is to hate women or shut down emotionally. But Schopenhauer didn't tell you to stop loving. He told you to start seeing, to stop idealizing. To realize what you call love might not mean the same to her. Once you see that, there's no going back. The veil falls. The story that kept you on your knees collapsed. When everything falls apart and she leaves, physically or emotionally, you don't know how to respond. You weren't prepared. You didn't enter this bond out of convenience. You entered it out of hope. The deep conviction she was the one. Not a chapter, not a phase, not a possibility, but the final destination. That's why when she pulls away, or someone new appears, your world shatters. You feel the cold sting of the unexplainable. And worst of all, you blame yourself. So you try harder. You send more messages, make grander gestures, desperate acts of love. You fight to save what's already lost. But there's nothing left to save. Because what you thought was a spiritual connection was, to her, and Schopenhauer's cold eye, a functional bond. One that either fulfilled its purpose or was replaced by a better option. And here's the most confusing part. She doesn't hate you. She may not even know why. She's simply disconnected. Not out of cruelty, but because her instinct told her to. She no longer perceives in you the promise of safety or progress. Even without conscious awareness, her nature works like a radar, always scanning. When it detects someone with more status, resources, or potential, her attraction shifts. You don't even understand how someone can say, "I love you" one day and act like a stranger the next. That's because you still see love as a straight line, something that, once born, only grows. You don't realize that for her, love is dynamic and flexible, dictated by factors you can't control or even see. In your desperation, you crawl, cry, and beg, a shadow of your former self, trying to revive something that's gone. You humiliate yourself, believing your love can reignite her interest. But the more you lower yourself, the more invisible you become. She doesn't respond to your pain, she responds to your position. When your position becomes needy, submissive, desperate, it loses value in her eyes. In that quiet, invisible process, you lose more than a woman. You lose your center. Your dignity evaporates. Your direction collapses. Because everything was anchored to her. Your purpose, your motivation, your emotional identity. And when she's gone, you don't know who you are anymore. Without that story, the real fall begins. Not with the breakup, but with realizing you abandoned yourself inside the relationship. And the cruelest part, you can't even hate her. Because deep down, you know she didn't write the false story. You did. You projected it, dreamed it. Now pain teaches you, with ruthless clarity, that the price of idealizing without understanding is losing yourself in a story that was never real. That moment of collapse isn't just heartbreak, it's an existential implosion. Because it's not only her who leaves, your entire sense of purpose, tied so tightly to her presence, vanishes with her. The future you imagined crumbles. The illusions nurtured through every silent sacrifice and every small surrender of self evaporate. And what's left? Emptiness, ruins, an identity shattered, not by betrayal, but by the choice to pour your soul into something meant only to function temporarily. Expecting permanence in a system designed by biology to be adaptive, utilitarian, and fleeting is the real tragedy. Schopenhauer didn't say this to break you. He said it to wake you. Because as long as you believe your devotion guarantees eternal love, you will be destroyed by a logic that was never yours. Many men never recover. They remain trapped in this shattered narrative, repeating the cycle, chasing the same illusion with different faces and names, hoping this time it will be different. But it never is. Because it's not the woman who must change. It's your perception, your understanding, the mental framework, the story you believed was happening. To heal, you must face a brutal truth. You allowed it. Not as guilt, but as a key. You were the one who gave everything without demanding real reciprocity. The one who shifted your direction to fit into hers. The one who stopped building your kingdom to invest in hers. You believed love meant pain, that persistence was noble, and that giving up was cowardice. But the real cowardice is feeding an illusion that's killing your soul. When you say, "I allowed it," you're not condemning yourself. You're reclaiming power. Because if you betray yourself, you can also save yourself. You can stop idealizing. Stop seeking validation from someone who doesn't see you as an equal. You can start looking at yourself with the same intensity you once looked at her. Not to harden or hate, but to awaken. Deep down, you don't want revenge or punishment. What you truly want is clarity. Clarity begins the moment you stop searching for answers in her actions and start searching within yourself. Why did you give so much without boundaries? Because what hurts isn't just her absence. It's the abandonment of yourself. That man staring back at you from the shattered mirror, the one who no longer knows who he is, was born not from her leaving, but from the day you stopped respecting yourself. The day you decided she was worth more than your peace, your purpose, your energy. And the only way out of that abyss isn't through more romance, hope, or blind faith. It's through truth. Truth that may burn your eyes but finally lets you see. Because as long as you stay sedated by the stories you were told, you'll keep begging for crumbs of emotional connection and mistaking it for love. But that's not love. That's dependency. Dependency destroys more souls than rejection ever could. Then comes the day you can no longer lie to yourself, when something inside breaks so violently that no sweet words or memories can hold you together. That is the day you look the illusion in the eye and realize it wasn't her who destroyed you. It was you, for dreaming a dream she never shared. Schopenhauer didn't give you a blueprint for hatred. He offered a mirror, one many don't dare to face, because it shows not her but you. You need to idealize, your desperation to be loved, your chosen blindness. If you can hold that gaze without flinching, justifying, or running away, something shifts, something deep, something no one can ever take from you again. That's real freedom. Not the freedom you scream to convince yourself you have, not the freedom you fake in front of others, but the freedom born from truly lived pain. The freedom that emerges when you accept that your worth isn't defined by whether she chooses, loves, or validates you. That your purpose cannot depend on someone else's shifting desire. You didn't come into this world to orbit her. You came to build your center, your kingdom. If a woman walks beside you, let it be out of mutual respect, shared vision, and awareness. Not because you need her to save you from yourself. That difference is everything. When you stop idealizing, you stop begging. You stop shrinking yourself to fit. You stop negotiating your essence just to be accepted. And finally, you reclaim what you gave away unknowingly. Your vital energy, your presence, your undiluted masculinity. Your purpose free from need. And that transformation doesn't demand vengeance or resentment. It requires truth, the kind of truth that tells you, you are not here to be loved as a fantasy, but to be respected for who you truly are. If that respect doesn't come, if they don't see you or value you, then you must have the courage to walk away. Not in anger, but in dignity, because you are not a stepping stone, a phase, or a resource. You are an end in yourself, man who walks firmly, even if alone, one who would rather stand in the silence of truth than stay trapped in the golden prison of illusion. And that choice, though painful at first, is the line separating the conscious man from the emotional child who still hopes to be loved like in fairy tales. Illusion doesn't die on its own. Dies when you choose to let it go. When you name it, understand it, release it, and then your true self emerges. Not the one who chased validation, not the one who gave blindly, but the one who will never again sacrifice his soul for a story written by someone else. Now you know. And with that knowing, you can't go back. You can't keep believing what you've already seen collapse. You can't betray yourself by chasing a fantasy that has already shown its teeth. Love is not your enemy. Women are not your enemy. The true enemy was the lie you were told and chose to believe. But not anymore. Because now you walk with open eyes, a straight spine, and an intact soul. Not to hate, but to never again abandon yourself. And that, my friend, is the true victory. After the storm of heartbreak and shattered illusions, something profound begins to stir within you. It's a quiet awakening, a call to reclaim the self you lost along the way. Because when love ends, not with hatred or bitterness but with truth, it frees you to build something stronger, a foundation rooted in your worth, your purpose. This is where many men falter. They look outward for healing, seeking another to fill the emptiness left behind. But real healing comes from turning inward, from facing the parts of yourself you neglected while lost in the fantasy of us. You see, love isn't a magic fix. It isn't about two halves becoming whole. It is about two complete beings choosing to walk side by side, not to complete each other, but to complement each other. That's a difficult truth when you've spent years believing you were incomplete without her, when you sacrificed your dreams, bent your will, and dimmed your light, hoping she would return the favor. But she never was required to, because her love was never your mirror. It never reflected your ideal but followed a different script, one written by evolution, biology, and survival, not romance. Understanding this difference isn't surrender, it's power, it's freedom. It means you can stop chasing the illusion of forever and start embracing the reality of the moment, your moment. You're not a victim of lost love. You're a man who dared to hope, who dared to believe in something more. That courage, though it led to pain, is the spark that can ignite your transformation. Begin by looking at yourself with compassion and honesty. Ask, who am I without her? What do I want, truly want, from life? Not what I imagined with her, but what moves me deep down. This journey isn't linear. There will be days of doubt, days when the old longing pulls you back into the shadows. But each time you choose truth over fantasy, you grow stronger. You reclaim your dignity by setting boundaries, by refusing to settle for crumbs or conditional love. You rebuild your kingdom brick by brick, passions, goals, friendships, and self-respect forming the foundation. And when you walk from that place, you attract those who see you fully. Not as a placeholder, not as a project, but as a man whole in himself. This transformation requires patience. It asks you to sit with your pain, not run from it. To grieve the loss not just of her, but of the story you told yourself. In this space, you learn to love differently. Not desperately, but deliberately. You recognize love as a choice, not a destiny. And when the time is right, you open your heart again. Not because you need someone to complete you, but because you choose to share your completeness with another. That is a true connection. That is true love. Not the fairy tale sold to you, but a raw, honest partnership between equals. So walk this path with courage. You will stumble, but each fall is a lesson. Each tear cleanses. Each moment of clarity breaks another chain. Remember, you are not alone. Many men walk this road from heartbreak to wholeness. And in the end, you emerge not broken, but reborn. Stronger, wiser, free, ready to live a life where your worth isn't defined by who stays or leaves, but by the unshakable foundation you build within yourself. Because the greatest love story you'll ever write is the one you write with yourself. This is the moment when everything changes. You stand at the crossroads of your story, not as a lost man clinging to illusions, but as someone who has faced the hardest truths and emerged wiser. No longer bound by fairy tales or fantasies, you hold a deeper understanding of love, loss, and self-worth. You realize that love is not about possession or endless giving. It's about respect, respect for yourself, for the other, and the fragile balance between. When you stop idealizing, you stop shrinking yourself. You reclaim your power, your energy, your masculinity, not as a weapon but as a light. And in that light you find freedom. Freedom from dependency, freedom from seeking validation from others, freedom from the chains of outdated beliefs about love. You walk forward with open eyes and an open heart, knowing that true connection is built on equality, awareness, and mutual respect. You no longer fear solitude, because you understand that being alone is better than being with someone who doesn't see your worth. You cherish your silence, your peace, your essence. And when the right person walks into your life, not to complete you, but to stand beside you, and you'll be ready. Ready to share, to build, to love not from need but from choice. Because now you know the truth. You are not defined by who chooses you or leaves you. You are defined by the courage to love yourself fiercely, clearly, and without apology. This is your victory, not in winning someone else's love, but in reclaiming your own. In living a life where your soul remains intact, your dignity unbroken, and your purpose shining bright. This is the freedom born from truth, and nothing can take that away.